called 9 Inch Nails. Whoa. And he thought to himself, why am I listening to this U2 crap when there's all this other types of music out there which is exactly 100 times better? So Jason, very fickle.
Seems to be the case with a lot of these listeners. Rufus, you got one.
Smiths coming out on top in the poll of songs that changed lives. I've got another Smiths fan here. We've got Lee from Newport, who went to see the Smiths with his parents went to see the Smiths at the Newport Centre, and Morrissey got pulled off the stage and punched in the face. There were only 3 songs in, and that was the end of the set. Whole family gutted, it says here.
Wow.
How Soon Is Now, a particular favourite track.
That's amazing, the idea of having your parents at a Smiths gig in the early days.
I took my parents to a Billy Bragg gig in Bristol.
If you can sit down at a Billy Bragg gig.
My mum said, it's very good, but he swears a lot more than he does on record.
And Sammy, you got one?
The Doors, The End, changed my life when I realised how pointless life is, and in the end you die alone. David. On the other side of that coin, Boogie Nights by Heatwave. It's just fun.
If you're one of David's friends, you're planning to go out with him on a Saturday night, what mood's he going to be in? Let's hope he's in a Boogie Nights kind of mood. Otherwise, so Sammy, what was your own musical choice?
I had real difficulty between 2 songs this week because I didn't know which one to choose. I was going to go for We Haven't Turned Around, which is probably Gomez's most epic song because that's what made them my favourite band. But I went for this instead. Aerosmith were my favourite band for many a year, probably from being about 2 or 3 to being about 11. And it was the first proper rock concert I went to with my dad, fully crimped hair, double denim, a rock t-shirt, lipstick. We went along and they played this song, and it was the first time that a song actually made me cry. I was 9 years old and this was my music first. I realised that, my God, there's something beyond just Plinky Plinky.
Wow, there is more than just Plinky Plinky. And here's the proof. That's Sammy's song that changed her life, and it was Aerosmith, Living on the Edge, and it's an excellent choice, Sammy, I'm not going to lie to you. There's been quite a lot of sort of big rock in terms of our favourite choices. What is it about big rock that appeals to us?
I think it probably appeals to a child, because you were about the same age as me when you were into Rush, weren't you? Yeah. I think it's just something epic and massive about it all, the hair and the scenery and the music. But there's something really lovely about that, and something quite deep and meaningful to a 9-year-old about the lyrics. Not anymore.
Sure.
When you're 9. And I'd like to thank my dad very much for that, because if it wasn't for him, I'd never have gotten into Aerosmith. So thank you, Dad.
Round of applause for Sammy's dad. Let's keep that round of applause going as we welcome Sophie Harris, music writer, contributor to Time Out, and also one of the people that's contributed to this book. Thank you, Dan. This book, 1,000 Songs to Change Your Life, which is in a sense what kickstarted today's content, if you like to call it that. And thank you very much indeed for coming in, Sophie. You have contributed a section in this book specifically about sexy songs.
I have songs about sex, sexy songs with the word sex in them. Yeah, exactly.
And what is it particularly that appeals to you about the sexy song?
I thought you were going to say about sex. And
I've taken it as read that there are certain, physical things which are pleasurable there.
Right. Okay.
I'm presuming you like many other women that I've spoken to. There's a certain number of key factors. Rufus could explain it in detail.
I'm presuming you like many other women that I've spoken to.
Again, you're presuming an awful lot. I really was just trying to focus on the article, and already we've got into your swinging both ways. But because I was drawn to your section because it had a picture of Prince, someone who I adore, and someone who, of course, is notorious for his sexy songs. Mm-hmm. But yeah, are those songs in particular that have had some impact on you? Have changed your ways?
Prince, not massively. I like early Prince and Raspberry Beret and all of that kind of thing. But I remember when Prince was getting really massive and it was all Get Off and Sexy MF and that kind of thing. And that doesn't really do it for me. But I think I admire Prince more than anything else for the fact that he loves sex, and that to me is kind of one of the big things that makes a song sexy. I mean, it's something that we talk about in the chapter. Whereas someone like James Brown, who talks about being a sex machine, and there's a lot of conviction and a fire and spitting and whatever. But I feel like it's more about look at me, James Brown, rather than I love sex, which is what I get from Prince.
And you mentioned a lot in the article as well about some of the great classic BBC bands as well. The BBC, of course, in its long history is endlessly banned songs for the most absurd reasons.
Brilliant, isn't it?
And Relax, of course, being the most famous.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Relax is the most drama of any band because of Mike Reid playing it and sort of whistling along, thinking, I like this. This is a lovely song, and halfway through thinking, what did he say? And ripping the needle off.
Did he actually take the needle off mid-play?
Halfway through.
Wow.
I know.
And so it was banned then, wasn't it? And there
Then
was
it
a few.
was banned,
There's a few
and
others that
then
you
Texas
mentioned
won.
as well.
A few, what, the bands? I think the second best would probably be Je t'aime, the famous Serge Gainsbourg song, which was banned all over the place. And there was a great send up of it by June off Terry and June. They did an awful version, and possibly Frankie Howard, although that might just be it
Wow.
was Frankie Howard. She's just so British.
Terry and June doing a version of Je t'aime, just horrific.
But wonderful.
That sums up the early 80s.
Up Je Thames.
Up Je t'aimes. I love the fact Jude knows that. Is that a song that you might play, Jude, when you're getting
We've got
fresh?
it on here.
We're digging that out later. I like the fact that in your article as well, you mentioned a couple of songs from the 40s and 50s. You kind of presume that sort of smut in songs started sort of post-60s. But these are some, as you say, from the golden era of innuendo. R&B hits such as the Toppers' Baby Let Me Bang Your Box.
I know, it's glorious, isn't
And
it?
what's the innuendo
Keep
there?
the butter churning. I know, exactly. Well, it's about a set of drums, obviously. No,
Yeah, and as you say, Winoni Harris's Keep On Churning Till the Butter Come.
exactly.
Keep on churning till the butter come.
Or Lord Kitchener's wonderful Calypso classic, I'm not a qualified physician, so I cannot give you my injection. I mean, they're so much ruder than that. And I hear these modern days hits, and someone like the new Usher single, I want to make love in this club. And it's so kind of all on the table, so to speak. You know, there's
Well, he did it on the table, he did it on the bar, he's done it all over the place.
Exactly.
Well, that's it. The great classic. And obviously, there's you can endlessly find the long lists of rude country and western songs. My favourite, of course, being "I Hate Every Bone in Your Body Except Mine." Fantastic. But I can't remember who that's by. But it's kind of it would be odd to suggest that these are necessarily songs that would change your life.
Well, I mean, it depends how great the sex was,
Sure,
doesn't it?
within the
Perhaps
song.
it would change your life. But I think with a book like this, generally, there are going to be some songs that you listen to that perhaps you haven't heard before that you just think, my God, that is amazing. But I think there are also other little games that people play with books like this, which is how many of my favourite songs are going to be in it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Or you might go in and because they're genuinely really interesting essays. You know, there's things on. One of the essays that I loved reading actually was on work songs, and it was talking about how in Britain, if we think about songs about work, it's usually kind of Billy Bragg or stuff to do with unions, and it's quite bleak and it's quite depressing. Whereas America has this great kind of culture of kind of blue collar songs, and it's proud and it's strong and kind of manly, like Bruce Springsteen or Petty, someone like that.
Yes.
And it's just those things that where you haven't necessarily thought about that specifically, but you just think, oh yeah.
But one of the themes which has been running through what we've been saying, and also what the listeners have been getting in touch with, is songs which change your life. Often seems to be sort of songs which are formative. And it seems to me that there's quite a lot of people who probably listen to music and enjoy it, but don't really have that kind of emotional relationship with music. It's often background music while they're ironing and stuff. And then there's a whole other section of us, which I suspect is the Six Music listener, who is kind of sort of maybe trundling along, and then somewhere along the line we discovered the Smiths being them, and for me it was the Beatles or Oasis. They suddenly come into you and they give you a whole new relationship to music that they're
totally new
really
And actually, as a music writer, there have been so many people that I've interviewed who are kind of roughly the same age as me, who had this kind of big rock explosion moment, and more often than not, it was Nirvana's "Smells Like Teen Spirit." You know, someone like, I remember talking to Ben Queller, and that record came out when he was really young, like 10 or 11, and skating around an ice rink, and was used to hearing things like Whitney Houston, "I Will Always Love You," that kind of thing. And that came on, he was like, whoa, you know, pulled into the side. Or Devendra Banhart, you know, just everyone had this big reaction.
and it's like it sort of changes your DNA in a way that that
kind of does. And I mean, I think sometimes as well it's to do with the situation where you hear the special song. Like for me, my kind of teenage my mind's melting song would have been Lola by the Kinks, because I remember going to my first ever party age 13 and drinking my first ever no alcohol beer, thinking, wow, maybe I will get drunk anyway, and sitting in my friend's leather jacket and that song being on, and just honestly, I don't know if I've ever been so excited in my life as that particular moment. And whenever I hear that song, it's, you know, there again.
now, what have you chosen for us to actually play, though?
Well, so my kind of life-changing moment as a kid, it's along the lines of what you guys have been talking about, the big rock anthem. And for me, really, the moment where I felt like my eyes kind of pinged open, I thought, what is this thing called rock music? Was Take It to the Limit by the Eagles, which was something that my dad played a lot in the car, and it just, set my heart on fire.
Let's see if your heart is ablaze again as we play. I can't do those kind of things. The Eagles, Take It to the Limit. That's the choice of our guest, Sophie Harris, who has contributed to this book, 1,000 Songs to Change Your Life. We'll be talking again about a bit more after the news about other songs. But as you say, it's got a lovely kind of a wide open feel, that song, hasn't it? Which a lot of British songs can never really do.
Absolutely. We've got windy roads over here. They've got open highways. Go figure.
I always think that bit at the end of Bruce that I played earlier, Thunder Road, where he says it's a town full of losers and we're pulling out of here to win. I always think, yeah, at least listen to that in Bristol. Yeah, I'm pulling out of here to win. Hi, Mum, I've got to Swindon. Probably be back in time for tea. That's the problem. Yeah, as you say, you do just drive off the end of the country. We'll be back after the news.
On digital, online.
Website.
Six Music.
Steve Sherby's Six Music with me, Steve Merchant, and I've got my little gang here, and time is against us, I'm afraid. Time, our old enemy. So, Harry, we need to get your musical choice, songs that changed your life.
Yeah, I mean, something that's sort of been apparent from the emails that come in is people often find songs that kind of talk to them in some way, that they resonate with and that relate to them. When I was at school, I was really into hip-hop, absolutely loved it. But then at some point I realised that KRS-One going on about Scott La Rock getting killed in some gangland thing, I couldn't really relate to that at all.
Yeah.
So I went to university, and was reading a lot of Bukowski, like everyone does at university, trying to portray this image of myself as some sort of romantic dropout, whereas really I was just at a provincial university struggling through an economics course, finding different ways to do beans on toast. But this song, I got into American Music Club because Eitzel writes, he took a lot of inspiration from Bukowski, and his lyrics are just fantastic, and this is one of the perfect love songs. It's called Western Sky by American Music Club.
That's Harry's song that changed his life. What was it again, Harry?
Western Sky by American Music Club, off their California album, which you can't get anymore, sadly.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a bit of a blow.
Thanks very much indeed for playing that then, even though no one can ever hear it again. Okay, so, we played a lot of songs which have changed our lives, but you know how we like to delve into the pigeonhole, explore new music, new songs that might change, perhaps not our lives, but, there might be some young tykes out there whose brains will be changed forever. And Sophie, if you don't mind hanging around as well and just casting your opinion, do you sometimes do that on Steve Lemack's round table?
What, hang around casting my opinion?
Yeah.
As often as possible.
Brilliant, so we really have now just stolen Steve Lemack's round
We're
table.
making his guests as well.
We should actually steal his round table. There's bound to be one. But just have that in here, and well, anyway, listen. Maybe Beck, a new single from him, Chemtrails, will change someone's life. New single from Beck, released on the 23rd of June. That's Chemtrails, and it's the first tune in our Pigeonhole selection this week. We'll be getting our opinions. We've got a big panel. And we'll start with Tiny Dan.
Yeah, I liked it. I liked it a lot. It was quite doomy and gloomy. I liked Beck from years back, but I kind of tuned out because it felt like he was only making two songs, the sort of the acoustic, low-key type, and the slightly funky, crazy ones. But that sounds quite different. A little bit proggy, a little bit experimental. But I'm going to give it a little tiny damn thumbs up.
Those are very tiny thumbs indeed. Are they going to be bigger thumbs from Harry?
Reasonably sized, kind of chunky thumbs. Yeah. It was really good. It didn't sound like Beck remotely. There was none of his usual kind of wise guy shtick. But it was really, really enjoyable. Great drums. We were all drumming on drums.
You think it's an unusual choice as a single? Well, Tiny Rufus. Do you feel it's?
I think it's an interesting choice to single, and I'm slating myself now to direct the movie of not just the video, but the movie of that song, which is going to be a kind of Wicker Man style, kind of sinister 1960s kind of journey into mysticism.
Well, I look forward to that enormously.
Yeah, you wait.
Yeah, never going to get financing. Never going to get financing. The British film industry being what it is.
Yeah, well, we'll take this outside, Steve, after the show. But I think I know where I can get the money from.
There's some tax breaks you can take advantage of.
And Sammy?
I'm giving it 2 lady-style thumbs up. I normally like Beck's quirkiness, but going a different direction really suited him. That was much fun.
And what about our special guest, who's actually a legitimate music journo? So we appreciate your opinion.
Well, what I think is, I kind of miss Beck sounding like Beck, because I love it when you hear his voice all deep and Beck-like, and it was sort of wafty there. But the drums were fantastic, and I would just say to any listeners who haven't heard an album by Aphrodite's Child